on from Forest Fan TV. Wolfie, how you doing, my friend? I think this game means a lot more to us than it does to you, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're on the beach, so like we're just gonna play the kids and just turn up, mate. But no, I'm worried. I'm worried, and I'm here for you guys to unworry me, if that's such a word, because I'm hoping you guys are all on the Europa, and even if you lose, it doesn't matter and what have you. We've had a poor couple of weeks. We need to turn it around on Monday because that chasing pack has suddenly overtaken us. So
It's funny. It's funny hearing you say you're worried, Wolfie, because last year we were battling for Champions League and you were battling relegation. You were like, "No problem, we're going to beat you. It's going to be easy." Like you didn't have a care in the world, and now all of a sudden you're touching the upper echelons of the league, and now you're feeling a bit jittery.
I tell you what, it's a different kind of stress. I can tell you that much. I don't know if it's as hard as stress as a relegation fight because you mess up in a relegation fight, bye bye Premier League. So with this one, it's like you mess up, you get Europa. So, that would still be a great season. But from the position we're in now and have been since December, I think December the 8th or something, thereabouts, we've been third until the week just gone. I just think we have to do it. It's a great chance to do it. Great chance to maybe get our third star. Who knows? So it's worrying. It's stressful, but I just need 3 points. I think we need 65, 66 points. So that's 2 wins and a couple of draws. We've got some favorable fixtures. We've got Leicester at home. We've got West Ham away, who look terrible right now. And of course, you guys will play the kids and like just. Is there any point in this game? Just give us the 3 points and make sure no one gets injured.
I just can't believe how kind of like low on confidence you're coming into this game. I know you've lost your last couple of games to Villa and Everton, but when you look at Spurs, particularly in the league, when you know we've got nothing to play for, you know that we're going to make a host of changes. I just don't understand how you're not coming into this brimming with confidence.
Boys, too many scars. Too many scars with Forest. Yeah, we had. I was talking about it the other day. I remember back in 2020, only a few years ago, we were dead set on playoffs. All we had to do was not lose by a 6 goal margin swing. So it wasn't a case of draw. It wasn't a case of get a win. We could lose, just don't get tonked. And we got tonked to Stoke. And we fell out on the last day in the last minutes of the playoffs. So the scars are there. I got plenty more. Yeovil, Sheffield United, Blackpool, Swansea. Take your pick. The scars are all there. So but I think every football fan says that about their club, don't they? I'm sure even the Man City and what have you fans have the same issues. So yeah, if you'd said to me at the start of the season, I'd be nervous about potentially getting Champions League at the end, bite your hand off for this position. But you got to give credit to Nuno, what he's done. Your ex-manager. I don't know if you guys saw it coming, but what a turnaround he's made with this team.
Phenomenal. Yeah, you've had a phenomenal season. But like, tell me about like how he's done it. Like, do you feel like this is a one-off season? Do you feel like he's really building something that is sustainable? Like, tell me how you're feeling about the state of Nottingham Forest in the current position they're in.
Well, for me, what Nuno did when he came in was very pragmatic. He assessed what went wrong last year. Most of our goals we conceded were from set pieces or corners. So he just brought in a big brute, the Serbinator, as we call him, Milenkovic, who is just an old school defender. No nonsense, get rid of it, clear your lines, win every header. And that just solidified us, especially at the start of the season. I think we went like 50 or something dead balls without conceding a goal. And Nuno's philosophies, as you guys I'm sure are well aware, is his number one priority is clean sheet. Build from a clean sheet, build from the back, transition quick. And that's the change I've seen this season was those explosive transitions, getting Alanga out wide, Callum Hudson-Odoi on the other side, winning the ball, setting some traps, committing the fullbacks from the opposition team to allow the space for us to get in. And that's what really the foundation was built on. And when you get a chance, make sure you score. And Cristiano Ronaldo, as we call him, has been bagging them in 18 already this season. He's just come back from an injury, so he should be fit for tomorrow's game. But yeah, that's what it is. He's very pragmatic. Look, is it the prettiest football in the world? As you guys know, no, it's not. But is it getting the results? Yes, it is. And as long as it is, we're very happy.
But do you think this is the way you play and kind of the players you have and stuff like that. You, for example, like Wood getting 18 goals and things like that. Are you like we saw? I'm not saying you're like Leicester, but we saw obviously with Leicester, they won the league and then massive drop off the following season. Is that what you do? You anticipate something similar, or do you actually think actually we could be in this top four for many years to come?
Yeah, I mean, taking my Forest goggles off, I look at the Premier League as a whole, and it's not just Forest that are doing it. We saw 2 years ago with Newcastle, last year with Aston Villa, this year with Forest. We're seeing Newcastle and Villa still competing right now for those top 4 or 5 positions. We saw Villa go deep in the Champions League, Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup. And these are three teams I feel that the intention is there, the intention from their ownership is there. I think when I speak to my mates in the Big Six or the so-called Big Six, there's not many that are happy with their ownership, maybe outside the Man City fans. The rest of you don't feel like your owners are invested in the club and they're running it more like a business. Whereas if you look at Villa's ownership, Newcastle's, and especially Forest, Marinakis, when we got promoted, turned around and said, "We're not here just to make up the numbers. I want trophies." He got laughed at, but he's put his money where his mouth is. He bought, 6 billion players as we get bantered to start with, but he's always looking to push Forest higher. So my feeling is we are going to see a change in this Big Six over the next few seasons. The main reason being is I think any team that's been in the Premier League for a couple of years is no longer financially dependent. They're independent in their finances. And a couple of examples I think that kind of shine the light for this was when you look at Manchester United trying to get Branthwaite from Everton in the summer, where they were still having their ownership issues and money, and they still said, "No, we're fine. We're going to hold on to him." Newcastle tried to get Gay from Crystal Palace, and they just said 10 more million, 15 more million. We don't need to sell him. And I think this is, even though there's PSR, because the teams have found a way around it. We found a way around it with Newcastle, where we bought Elliot Anderson for 35 million and sold him our third choice keeper for 22 million. And that was a way of getting around PSR. You saw Villa doing it, Chelsea doing it, etc. So I think with the amount of money that's in the Premier League, there isn't how it was back in the day where you would see a Manchester United come in and just bully players out of a club. I still think there is the likelihood that you do lose some players because players may have their head turned or want to go to a different club or what have you. But I just think the power in terms of the financial magnitude of what the Big Six have, even though they still have more money, it's not enough of a chasm anymore that other clubs like Newcastle's, Forest, and Villas can start to get involved. So I do think there's going to be a change. Are Forest going to be sustainable in a top four race season in, season out? Ask me after our transfer window, mate. I mean, we've been linked with Gyökeres. It's never happening, but I'd love to see it. So, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, let's see what Marinakis pulls in the summer.
So you mentioned Chris Wood before, right? I think he's on his biggest goal drought than he's been all season. Even before
Yeah.
the injury, I think he went 4 or 5 games without a goal. Awoniyi, I think, is injured as well. I don't know what's happened with Awoniyi because I really like the look of him a couple of years back. And he seems to have gone off the boil. I mean, with him, I think, injured for the game, Chris Wood not really firing at the moment. Is that a worry for you? How are you going to get your goals?
Yes and no. I mean, Chris Woods for me was overplayed, because Taiwo was injured as well and completely out of form. He's shut off all confidence. He's not the player we saw at the end of the first season when we got promoted. And Chris Wood was, in my estimation, was brought in to be a backup to Taiwo. And what we saw was Taiwo fall out of form. He got an injury. Chris Wood stepped up when Nuno came in and started to bag goals in. And his form's been excellent, but you are right in what you say. Even pre-injury, for a couple of games, he wasn't scoring. But that was more so that I think the team has got tired because we didn't strengthen in January. I think it was a big mistake. We bought a couple of kids for the future, but nothing to really cement where we are or get those Champions League spots dealt a bit earlier. That would have been a lot less stressful. Am I worried about his form? No, because whenever he's gone on a little drought, he tends to bag a couple of goals in for a few games, and I think he's quite motivated to get a 20 haul in the Premier League, and he's only two away from that. It just really depends how you guys deal with him defensively, because he will drop quite deep, but once we hit on the counter attack, he will find himself in and around that box. And if Alanga can find him, or if Hudson-Odoi is playing, they can find him. Then if he gets the chance, he will score. Where's been lacking in the last couple of games where he's played is there's been no chance created for him because people are starting to play differently against us.
You know, there'll be an initial disappointment, right, if you miss out on Champions League this season. But I think, like, with the expectations that you had coming into the season, when it's all said and done, and let's say you do qualify for, let's say, Europa League, would that not be seen as a success still this season?
Yeah, it is. It's still a success. It'll be a disappointing success if I can use that kind of phrase. Mainly because expectations for me change throughout the season.
Yeah.
And I think whatever position you hold in the Forest fan base, if you see it as success or bottling it or you're disappointed, I think all opinions on this are valid. Because the overarching opinion is it's progress. Whichever European competition we end up in. I really think because of the position we put ourselves in, I personally would be disappointed not to get Champions League. I think that moves us forward years compared to maybe getting a conference or a Europa League with the finances and the revenue that come in from Champions League, with the players we could potentially attract in that competition. It moves it a lot more than I think Europa. So yes, getting Europa would have been a fantastic step if we were now sitting in 10th and going on a late charge and squeeze ourselves into Europa. But in my mind, because of where we've been, and you know, this isn't entitlement, it's a case of assessing the season as it's progressed throughout and the positions we found Forest in. So, but I think all opinions on it are valid.
Yeah, your recent form, as you've been saying, has been a bit up and down. Obviously, you lost to like Everton at home last week, but you before that you obviously won I think 3 on the bounce. Before that, there was some patchy form. So, I think second half of the season form maybe hasn't been quite as good as maybe the first half of the season form. Is that fair to say? Or maybe the last.
Yeah, it's fair to say, and it's just got a lot better because Fulham just scored. Yes.
Fulham just scored.
Yeah,
Massive.
I think it's a wobie.
But it's weird, isn't it, with Forest? Like, you have such a tight defense, but then you do have these odd results where, like, I think Bournemouth battered you 4-0.
Yeah.
And, like, you do have, like, so where does those come from, those kind of results where you get blown away sometimes?
Bournemouth are our bogey team. We haven't beaten them, I think, since 2015 or 16, and we just always end up doing some silly things against them. Sometimes the head just drops within the game, and it's still that mentality that Forest need to install fully into their players. I think it's improved a hell of a lot. The bounce back from defeats has in general been very good this season. We haven't gone more than 2 games losing in a row. And when we lost to Fulham, sorry, not to Fulham, to Bournemouth, the next game we went and destroyed Brighton 7-0 at the City Ground. So that was a good bounce back. Against Everton last week, Everton were the better team in my opinion, but it was one mistake in the 94th minute from Murillo that let them in, and they took all 3 points. A point from that game would have been a lot better and would have done my stress levels and moods the world of good, because Everton are very good under Moyes. If the season started where Moyes was, they'd be 6th in the league right now. So Moyes has done an excellent job with them. And Villa are in just a hot streak. But again, in that Villa match, they destroyed us in the first half, but we outplayed them in the second half. And how we didn't get a point out that game, I'll never know. But you know, it's all ifs, buts, and maybes when you look back at the season. I'm sure you guys can think of many examples for Spurs, as can I. But I really need to see a bounce back on Monday. I'm holding on to this. We haven't lost twice, more than twice in a row at all this season. But now it's not even about the performance. Now for me, it's about the mentality of the players. Because Nuno used to talk about one game at a time, one game at a time. I don't look at the table. His rhetoric is changing now. He is talking about, you know, Europe and Champions League, and it's in our hands and what have you. And I need to know where the mentality of those players are. Can they handle this pressure? And that for me is what we will see on Monday. Are they gonna step up, or is this pressure gonna be too much on them?
Wolfie, you are in an FA Cup semi-final as well. No one seems to be talking about that, you know, in all this madness. And If I was to give you a hypothetical, which one would you prefer? Champions League and losing the FA Cup semi-final, or FA Cup winning Europa League?
For me, mate, give me both. But if you had a gun to my head, I want Champions League because of the way it kicks us on in terms of revenue, in terms of players we can attract, and everything. I love the FA Cup. It's the oldest domestic trophy and what have you, and it's a route into Europe. I actually do think we've got a good chance against Man City to at least get to the final. And I do actually wonder if that FA Cup semi-final has been playing on the players' minds as well, because form after we beat Brighton in the quarters hasn't been as good. But it's just another thing that for me underlines where Forest have come this season. It isn't just a fluke in the league. We're also doing it in cup competitions as well. We lost to Newcastle in the League Cup in the first round. And that was on a penalty shootout, which we were leading as well. So had, Taiwo scored his penalty in Sangare, Newcastle could still be trophyless this season. So the signs have been there all season. But from a personal perspective, and this is a split opinion in the fan base, some will agree with me, some won't. I just think looking ahead to where Forest can be, and the fact that we've already won it twice as well is always good. It's not like a Palace who I think this is their be all and end all because they have no trophies. This for me, Champions League just puts you back at the big boy table.
Mm. And looking as a Forest fan at Tottenham, I know your brother is a Spurs fan
Mm.
as well. Obviously, we're languishing down the bottom half of the table, but we're in that Europa League semi-final with a chance of European success this season. So when you're looking at Tottenham and you're comparing them to like Forest, do you feel like you've overtaken Tottenham at the moment, like you're well clear of them, and Spurs are a bit of a mess, or do you feel like next season that gap can be closed again?
If we sat down before the season and had a chat about it, I would have looked at your squad and said your squad is better than mine in terms of the players you have. I look at it now, I still think you have talented players, but I think you recruited way too young. There's not enough experience for me in that Spurs team as a squad. There's been the injury issues that we hear about even outside of Spurs week in, week out. We hear Andrew's presses on it. I don't think your squad is that bad. I think it's lacking experience. I think Son's fallen off an absolute cliff. I think you underused Jed Spence for the last 2 years, to be honest, because we know how talented he was at Forest. We saw what he did against Premier League oppositions in the FA Cup, the likes of Arsenal, etc. But it's the tactics for me. And I think for the first time in watching Spurs, and I've seen a lot of the Spurs games this season, that second leg against Frankfurt shocked me because normally I see two defenders in your half and that's it. No CDM holding, no nothing. Wing backs just way too high on both sides. And at Frankfurt, it looked more disciplined. And that's what's worried me about this game going in. I kind of wish I didn't watch that match because every time I've seen Spurs play, be it with Mickey van der Ven and Romero, or be it if Gray's been covering, they're so exposed at the back. And that's where I think you've got it wrong in terms of just structure, in terms of the discipline in the team. And I honestly think that comes from the manager. And he makes you guys quite easy to play against because he leaves those pockets wide. And this is why, if I wasn't as nervous for the position we're in, say this was a preseason friendly or something, I'd be quite confident about this match if he deploys those tactics because it would play into our hands. You'd have Elanga in space, Callum Hudson-Odoi in space, and we can find those diagonal long balls into them. And I think they would be, your fullbacks would be on the wrong side of it. But I don't think I think he's basically a dead man walking. But I don't think he doesn't have it in him to get it tactically right. I just think he's being very stubborn about his philosophy. The game for me that stood out more than anyone for Spurs was against United. I can't remember which cup competition it was. Was it the Carabao
Yeah,
Cup?
the
I think.
Carabao, yeah.
Yeah, where you went 2 or 3 goals up against them, and then you didn't just say, right, let's game manage this one out, let's see it through. It was like, we need another goal. And I sat there, I was watching it with my brother, and I was like, how many goals does Ange need before enough is enough in terms of goals? And there was just And you let Tottenham back into the Man U back into the game. It was an entertaining game, don't get me wrong. But from a tactical, sensible perspective, any manager, did you go? It was 3-0, wasn't it? I think you went
Yeah,
up 2 or 3.
we ended up winning 4-3. Yeah.
Yeah. Any sensible, normal manager in that game would turn around and say, right, let me chuck another CM in the middle. Let's just keep it nice and tight. Force Man United out wide. Man United aren't a great attacking team this season. They should never have been let back into that game. And I don't think he's learned from that mistake until that Frankfurt second leg, where I saw quite a disciplined performance from him. So I get the whole thing, Ange in, Ange out. You guys have seen had
Where's
plenty
your
of.
brother stand? Where's your brother stand?
He's Ange out.
Ange out.
He's not only is he Ange out, he's like Spurs like a breaking him this season. So, do you know, and I've seen that a lot in the fan base.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot in the fan base where it's almost I feel there's been a bit of a disconnection between the Spurs fans and the club, be it because of what Levy's, the feelings towards Levy, the feelings towards Ange. I don't think there's a consensus. Those that are backing Ange are saying it's Levy's fault. Those that want Ange out saying Ange, and there's some that are saying it's everyone's fault. Knock it down and start it again. And I don't think that's a good foundation to be starting on because the fan base, in my opinion, is so divided. And so where do you guys go from here? I think Ange leaves at the end of the summer, Europa Cup or not. And I think I don't know who you get, and I don't know who can fix it, but your squad needs more experience, in my opinion, as well.
Wolf, here's a question. If we finish 15th to win the Europa League, compared to you finishing, let's say you finish 4th and get Champions League but no FA Cup, who's had a better season?
I'm glad you've put it like that. My brother puts it to me. If you miss out on Champions League and I win the Europa Cup, who's had the better season? I think there's an argument for both, but from a perspective of expectation before a ball was kicked at the start of the season, a lot of people had Forest to go down. So for Forest to go from a relegation fight, and let's remember we just survived over the last 2 seasons, into and breaking into the top 5, potentially being ahead of Man City. I mean, who would have thought Man City would be behind? Okay, they're not now because they've obviously played a game more, but for the majority of this part of the season, they have been. So I would argue, obviously, from my perspective, that Forest have had a better season. If we miss out on Champions League and you win Europa, then yeah, that's a whole other debate. That's a whole other debate on that one.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because like if you have that debate, like Spurs were chasing down top 4 the whole season last year.
Yeah.
We've ended up finished 5th, Europa League, a competition that we didn't really want to be in, albeit once you're in it, I think it's a very high caliber trophy to win, in my opinion. When Forest going into this season, it was all about probably getting top 10, something like that going into the season. So I think judging on expectations going back from last season to this season, I'd probably argue that Forest probably have had the better season. If we do go on and win the Europa League. But anyway.
But we would have had a trophy and Champions League football.
Yeah, that's also true. But I mean, we could finish 17th.
Yeah, but with a trophy and Champions League football.
I know. Could do a Wigan, when they won it. Well, that was the FA Cup, though, wasn't it?
We're not going to go down, it doesn't look like. But.
Well, have you hit 40 yet?
We're not going to hit 40 this year, I don't think.
That's crazy.
We're on 37. We're on 37 at the moment.
That's crazy. Well, hopefully you're still on 37 on Tuesday, mate.
But yeah, in terms of like looking at this game tomorrow night, are you more trying to take confidence out of our game against Wolves on the weekend, or are you looking at that game against Frankfurt and being like, you know what, these guys could take a bit of inspiration from that and actually perform?
I kind of need to lean on your guys' opinion. Like, which way should I look? Because
the
that
Wolves game, in my opinion.
That Frankfurt one worried me. I'm not going to lie. If you play disciplined like that, we may struggle to get in behind, your fullbacks, which is where we want to be. If you play like you did against Wolves, we could have a bit of a feast. On paper, Ange ball is the perfect setup for Nuno ball because he plays into his hands. Even at the City ground, I think we beat you 1-0, wasn't it, earlier on in the season? It was very tight. It was very tight, but we took our chances, created it, and you fell into a few of our traps. So I'm hoping the Wolves Spurs turn up I'm hoping that he rests a hell of a lot of players, and I've seen kids' names that I've never heard of before playing for you guys. But the glass is usually half empty with me, so I'll wait till I see the team sheet named. But
We're
I
going
don't
to
know
make
what guys.
changes, Wolfie. We're going to make changes, and we're not going to play like we did against Frankfurt in terms of we're at home in against at home in the Premier League game. We're not going to sit back and defend, protect a result. We're going to go and try and beat you. That's definitely what we're going to try. I'm certain of that. We're not going to play this disciplined game that we did at Frankfurt, I think. But if you saw the home game against Frankfurt, we did play quite attacking. We did play very well when we should have beaten them by quite a bit. And even if you take the game that we played against you at the City ground, yes, you got an early goal and saw it out. But as you say, it was a very tight game. And Brennan Johnson had a couple of chances where if he sticks one of them away, it could have easily gone in a different way, that result.
Yeah, that for me is keeping me up at night. If Brennan Johnson costs us Champions League,
Brennan and Jed.
yeah, will Spence play? I mean,
Yeah,
Spence will definitely play this
Spence
game.
will play,
Yeah.
oh God, those are the two that worry me. Yeah, will he play him left or right though?
I think he'll play him left back, to be honest. I think Archie Gray might come in at right back.
Okay, because I still think as a pairing, those two work very well together. I'm surprised you guys haven't tried it more often. I know there's a whole thing about Brennan Johnson within the Spurs fan base, but I believe he is your top goal scorer. But I just don't think he suits Ange Ball at all. Brennan Johnson for me needs grass free in front of him to run into. He's not a dribbler. He's not the greatest of passers, but he does have speed. I know a lot of Spurs fans tell me he's the slowest, fastest player that you guys have ever seen, but he is fast. I can tell you if he's got grass to run into. So that's my biggest worry is Jono gonna but maybe he scores an own goal. Maybe he wants to see his team in the Champions League. Who knows?
The reality is, Wolfie, the players just don't have the motivation to play in the Premier League anymore. It's been that way for some time. And if you look at that game against Wolves, I mean, there was just a clear lack of fight in the game. Players like Kuti, Romero were absolutely disgraceful. It was like error after error after error. And I've just got a feeling like this one could go the same way, a similar way anyway. But we are at home, so it could be a bit of a different kind of motivation.
Yeah, I'd be more confident if we were at home. We haven't, if I'm not mistaken, I think we've lost every time to you at not White Hart Lane. What do you guys
Tottenham
call it now?
Stadium, yeah.
We'll call it White Hart Lane.
Yeah, but I think we've lost every time to you since we've been back up. Yeah, back in the day, we used to always win at White Hart Lane when we were in the Premier League. So I'm hoping some of that comes back. But on paper, I'm confident, but the doubt is in my mind just because of those last two games. The performance against Everton was one of the worst of the season for me. I'm hoping Nuno sorted it out, and I'm hoping you guys are more, one eye or ideally two eyes on your semi-final against a team I've literally never heard of. So they got a slash in their name, haven't they? A backslash or whatever. So
Bodo
you guys
Glimt,
should be in the final. And as long as Man United don't win it, I'm all right with it.
Or you take the bragging rights from your brother all summer.
Well, the thing is, the silver lining for me is if Ange wins it, do you keep him? That's the thing. That's the dilemma my brother's going to have to go through. Sava's going to have to go through. A lot of the Spurs fan base go through because technically he would have achieved something that hasn't been achieved since, 2008, since your last trophy?
Well,
And
his
this
first European trophy
1984.
Yeah.
Oh, for you, yeah, even further if you go European. So, build the statue, I guess, and what have you. So, do you think he stays if he wins it?
I've just got a sneaky feeling that he might just walk if he wins it with all the shit that he's had to go through this season, particularly with the fan base. I don't know if he will, but I've just got a sneaky feeling that might happen.
I think he's dying to remind everyone that he says he's won a trophy in the second year.
And damn right, why shouldn't he be?
Yeah, no, fair. I think he got treated harshly with that, if I'm being honest with you. He just made a factual statement and it got, blown out of proportion.
And every week he's getting asked about it. Every single week the press are making articles about it, asking questions. So he damn right should rub it in their faces if he does.
Yeah, but I think you guys will need to have the discussion if and when that does happen about the comparison to what United did with Ten Hag. Because they kept him on after the trophy and then that fell apart very quickly. So I guess that's probably a worry for you guys. Obviously, there's many bridges to cross before that discussion happens, but it's going to be interesting. I'll be keeping one eye on Spurs if you do win it to see what you do with old Ange Postecoglou.
What's your score prediction, Wolfie?
I'm going to say unconfidently 1-0 to Forest.
That was, yeah, we do Premier League predictions every week. That was my prediction. Sim said 1-0 to Spurs. You still thinking 1-0 to Spurs?
Well, it's going to be. I didn't anticipate. Well, Andrew's confirmed there's going to be like 5-6 changes. I thought it was going to be a bit less than that. But I think Forest are this kind of team where they don't create that many chances, do they? I know maybe against Spurs it could be different, but they don't. And if they recently they haven't been taking as many of them, so I've just got a feeling. Yeah, I'm going to stick with it. 1-0 Spurs. We got a good feeling coming off the back of the Frankfurt game. You can see a bit of togetherness in the squad now. A few of the players, even the ones changed, have had a bit more game time. So I've got a feeling we're going to win. I do have a feeling we're going to win.
Can I ask you boys one question? Because this is a debate that we've been having in the fan base. Was it better for us for you to go through or for you to have gone out on Thursday?
For you, I think it's better for us to go through, to be honest, because I think we're just focusing on this Europa League. That's all our eggs are just all in that basket. But to be fair, if we were to go out, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference in terms of what we're going to do.
Could be Mason in charge for tomorrow. If we would have
it could have been Mason.
Yeah.
Could have been Mason.
Good old Ryan.
I don't know if that was good or bad for you, but I think it would have been
worse for them if it was Mason in charge, because he's actually would have had something to prove. And if we would have gone
manager bounce.
Yeah, manager bounce. If we would have gone out of the Europa League, I think it would just all fall apart.
Interesting. We'll find out on Monday, boys.
Absolutely. We'll find out tomorrow night. But Wolfie, a pleasure to have you on as always, my friend. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's great catching up with you boys. For those watching, make sure you've hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to your channel. And good luck in the Europa, man. I don't really mean it that much, but rather you than Man U win it. So I'd rather Bilbao go ahead and lift that trophy in their home ground, but don't let Man U win it, please. That's all I ask.
And here was I was about to say good luck in the top 4 race, but better you than Chelsea. That's what
it's not personal. It's just blood.
Big up, Wolfie. Thanks for coming on today, mate.
Appreciate it. Have a good show.
You too.